It's certainly not enough to trade him. And the idea that just because the front office made the mistake of not paying him early, which I think we all agree is a mistake, means now they should make a mistake even worse by moving on from him, accumulating draft picks, in hopes that they might get a player like Micah Parsons. That's nonsense. They should keep him. They should pay him. And then you can figure it out with the rest. It's not an untenable cap situation to pay him and restructure Dak Prescott. I've looked at it. It is entirely possible for this team to do this.
Yeah, they can pay him, but then how does your team get markedly better from what it was last year? They got 25 free agents, y'all.
Time out. This ain't unsportsmanlike.
Trading him?
This ain't unsportsmanlike. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. This ain't unsportsmanlike. This is First Take. We have this segment because you brought up culture. You brought up the podcast. You brought up the locker room. Now, we can go back and forth in terms of the numbers. We playing a numbers game. All right, he's one player. You're already paying CeeDee Lamb and Dak. You add Micah Parsons to that. It's problematic. I got that part. You could go either way with what you said or Mina saying you can restructure his deal or what have you. I'm not debating that. The reason this is a segment, First Take, the reason this is a segment is because you brought up culture. You brought up the podcast. You brought up the locker room and the comment about Mike McCarthy. That is the reason we are talking about this subject. If it was just a matter of numbers, we wouldn't have been addressing this. We did this days ago. We did this because you went on the air and you brought up culture and blamed him, which to me is crazy. That's just crazy. You don't blame Micah Parsons for culture in Dallas?
Well, Stephen A., if I'm going to pay a guy $40 million a year, he's going to have to be a part of the culture being a good thing, not something that my organization and the rest of my locker room has to overcome.
So I can pay a dude 40, I can pay a dude 60 that can't get it done, but I'm going to have a problem playing a brother 30 to 40 who does.
How close are you to getting a deal with him?
Mike is a great player, not a good player, but a great player. He knows more than anyone that it's a team thing. And so I know everybody's tired of hearing this, but you've got to put this puzzle together so that you can have some other people out there playing with Michael. That's the art of the deal, and that's why we're trying to get done. And we're trying to make this thing work. But we have all the appreciation in the world for what he can mean to the years ahead. We're proud to have him.
It was supposed to be the season that finally brought balance back to Dallas. The Cowboys had one of the most dominant defensive players in the NFL, a generational force in Micah Parsons, and a roster stacked enough to make another run at the elusive Super Bowl. But instead of headlines about championship glory, the Cowboys are drowning in a storm of controversy. And at the center of it all, a bitter contract dispute between Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones that now threatens to end in divorce. Micah Parsons entered training camp in Oxnard, California this summer with the same intensity fans have come to expect. But something was different. He wasn't suited up. He wasn't on the field terrorizing quarterbacks. Instead, Parsons stood on the sidelines, his arms crossed, his face stoic, watching the team he once swore he'd bleed for. The whispers began to spread, first among reporters, then among fans. Where's Micah? Why isn't he practicing? The truth didn't take long to surface. Parsons wanted out. Earlier in the offseason, he had quietly informed the Cowboys he wanted to be traded. Negotiations for a long-term deal had stalled months earlier, and every attempt at progress collapsed. The front office stayed silent, and Parsons stayed angry. On his social media, he finally broke that silence. "Yes, I wanted to be here," Parsons wrote. "I did everything I could to show that I wanted to be a Cowboy, but I no longer want to be here." The words hit like a thunderclap. This wasn't just a player asking for a raise. This was a superstar telling the world, "I'm done with Dallas."
Guys, we don't know that. Okay. Just want Not all contract holdouts are the same, and the media tends to always take the player side in this. I get that with Terry McLaurin of Washington. I'm on his side. I'm not on Micah Parsons. First of all, I was on team trade Micah Parsons a year ago. The Cowboys are a mile from the Philadelphia Eagles roster composition. They need 4 good players. I would have gotten a couple of second-round picks, maybe a first and a fourth, whatever. I like Micah. He's a good player. But I'm not making him the highest-paid defensive end. He's not Myles Garrett. He's not Aiden Hutchinson. He's not Max Crosby. He's not T.J. Watt. He's not Nick Bosa. I like him a lot.
I would expect that the Packers would be among the teams interested. And I would say I would expect the Packers would be among the teams really interested.
Okay.
They have paid Jordan Love. They have a bunch of really good young players, but they haven't. There's some guys like Quay Walker they have not paid. Dak Dom they paid, but they have money to spend, and they are really good. And so like that's the kind of team that I would say if Micah was going to be traded that he'd be going to, because it's like we need one final piece. This guy is an absolute dog. He's worth all the money, so pay him all the money. I mean, God only knows what Mulugeta would make that contract. It'd be all of it. But it'd be worth it because you'd get Micah Parsons.
Jerry Jones, never one to back down from a fight, responded swiftly. I would say to our fans, don't lose any sleep over this, Jones told reporters at camp. To Jerry, this was just another negotiation tactic. In his mind, Parsons wasn't going anywhere. The Cowboys had him locked under a 5th-year option worth $24 million, and they could franchise tag him for 2 more years after that. Control was in Jerry's hands, and he wanted the fans to know it. But to Parsons, those comments weren't calming. They were insulting. Behind the scenes, his frustrations had been boiling. He felt disrespected. He felt targeted by media leaks, the kind that painted him as greedy, selfish, or fragile after injuries. He felt ignored in negotiations that had frozen for nearly half a year. And now, Jerry was brushing his pain aside with a smirk and a soundbite. The relationship wasn't just strained, it was fractured.
This comes off, look, RC hit it right. Look, it is tone deaf. I mean, they're talking like, poor us. Why are you picking on us? Why are you talking about us all the time? We're just doing business like everyone else. No, you're not. No other team in the NFL has an owner who now is holding it against a player. The fact that he had a private conversation with him and thought that they had a deal and were trying to bypass the agent, and now they are going to like engage in this petty kind of behavior to where I won't talk to you now because I thought I had a deal with the player. No other owner does that. How the hell can we not talk about that kind of thing? That is such a unique storyline. I've never heard of that. I never heard of that during my time as a player dog. I haven't heard of that during my time as a front office person. I haven't heard of that during my time here at ESPN of an owner refusing to talk to an agent saying, look, I think that the conversation I had with the player is binding and we should go off of that. That's just ridiculous. And then when they talk about the fact, she also made comments about, the fact that there's a salary cap, there's only so much money to go around, and we can't pay everyone. It's like, understand, you're managing the salary cap. You're the ones who are like choosing to strike contracts and write contracts the way in which you are, in the time in which you do, that puts you at a deficit every single time. They're making their own situations here. We're just talking about them because they're so unique and so dysfunctional.
You can't get a deal done if you're not even talking. And the two sides haven't had any negotiations since late March or early April. And it sounds like at this point it's personal. It sounds like each side is dug in. The Cowboys have come out and said what they said publicly at the start of training camp, which Micah didn't like. Micah came out and asked to be traded, said he was ready to move on from Dallas, which I'm sure they didn't like. And right now, both sides seem to be angry. Now, have other people put those feelings aside in the past and figured out a way to work out a deal? Yeah. I don't see that happening here. I see these two sides headed towards a divorce in time. The only question is, when is that divorce going to happen? And how is it going to happen? Are they going to trade him now? Are they going to trade him after this year? Are they going to move on when? But it certainly doesn't feel like these two sides want to enter a long-term relationship together. That's the way it feels today, and we'll see if they do anything to change that before the regular season begins in a couple of weeks.
ESPN insider Adam Schefter poured gasoline on the fire. I see these two sides headed toward divorce in time, Schefter declared on his podcast. Divorce. That word cut through Cowboys Nation like a knife. Schefter didn't just speculate, he predicted. He pointed out the lack of real negotiations, the silence since March, the personal edge to the standoff. Both sides were dug in. Neither was backing down. This wasn't going to be solved with a handshake. This feels personal, Schefter added, and I don't see them fixing it. It was the kind of insider bombshell that didn't just describe the situation, it defined it. Suddenly, every analyst, every fan, every rival GM in the league began to wonder not if, but when the Cowboys and Parsons would split. The public didn't just hear Parsons' frustrations, they felt them. I no longer want to be held to closed-door negotiations without my agent present. I no longer want shots taken at me for getting injured while laying it on the line. I no longer want narratives created and spread about me. I had purposely stayed quiet in hopes of getting something done. Those weren't the words of a man looking for leverage. They were the words of a man broken by mistrust. And mistrust cuts deeper than money. Parsons wasn't just angry at the numbers. He was angry at the way Dallas handled him, the way his loyalty was questioned, the way his sacrifice was turned into a headline. He wanted out. And for the first time, Cowboys fans began to believe he meant it.
That is major. Stephen A., everybody has a threshold for disrespect, and we just heard Adam Schefter that he doesn't think he'll finish his career in Dallas. Your reaction to that?
I agree with him. Listen, Jerry could change his mind, get him signed, and obviously he can franchise him or what have you, but I think that Jerry is looking at the money he's already doled out on Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, a couple of other players. You're spending over damn near $200 million on 3 players, and Micah Parsons will be a 4th. You can't conduct business in the NFL that way. You still got to fill out a roster. And I think that right now he is contemplating looking at Micah Parsons and seeing what value you can get in return for his services. You might be able to pick up a couple of first-round picks. You might be able to pick up a couple of players. I mean, this could be a mega deal if you're Jerry Jones, and you're probably looking at it that way. Plus, he seems a bit salty towards Micah Parsons. Again, I have no problem with any kind of that thinking. My issue with Jerry Jones, which I will say to him whenever it is that I see him, is that how dare you not talk to his agent? You know, the kid is 25 years old at the time that you're having these conversations. He turned 26 in May, if I remember correctly. Okay? You know, stop acting like talking with him is a negotiation. It's not. That is incredibly and completely unfair. Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys franchise is worth $12.8 billion, according to Forbes. They have elevated by $9.4 billion since last winning a Super Bowl on January 28, 1996. They are the most prestigious franchise, arguably, in all of sports. And Jerry Jones is at the head of all of it as a marketing and business genius. Why are you acting like you're playing fair when you were negotiating with a 26-year-old football player about his on-field performance and what that level of compensation should look like? That is incredibly unfair. I think the NFL Players Association needs to get involved. I think the NFL needs to get involved because I think that's flagrant taking advantage, that's flagrant abuse of a player. You can't do that. He has a representative. His name is David Mulugeta. That brother is considered one of the best agents in the world. And you haven't been on the phone with him? That is inexcusable. There is no defense for that. And that is what this issue is. And that's why I think that Micah Parsons could end up being gone. because of the stance that Jerry Jones has taken. And at this point, I don't think Micah Parsons would even mind. He wants to go where he wants to go, but I don't think that he's fixated on remaining in Dallas. After all, he did ask to be traded, and I think he means it.
But Jerry Jones wasn't budging. This is the same man who has stared down Hall of Famers, coaches, and rival owners without blinking. From Jimmy Johnson to Emmitt Smith, Jerry has always believed that no one, not even the brightest star, was bigger than the star on the helmet. And in this saga, he seemed determined to prove it again. Dallas had already picked up Parsons' fifth-year option. With the franchise tag, Jerry could keep him in a Cowboys uniform until 2028 if he wanted. The leverage was all his. To Jerry, Micah Parsons was still a Cowboy. But to Micah, he was already gone. Inside the locker room, the drama wasn't just a headline, it was a distraction. Teammates noticed the tension. Parsons was present, but not participating. He was still a leader, but no longer leading. Some players whispered that Jerry should pay him. Others muttered that no one is bigger than the team. The divide wasn't public, but it was real. And every day the standoff dragged on, the cloud grew darker. How could the Cowboys prepare for a season-opening showdown with the defending champion Eagles when their best player was mentally checked out? How could Micah Parsons focus on terrorizing quarterbacks when he was fighting his own front office? The standoff wasn't just between player and owner anymore. It was creeping into the soul of the team.
If the Cowboys were to let Micah walk, what would that mean for them moving forward?
What that means to me is that you aren't trying to compete for a championship right now. If the Dallas Cowboys decide that this is the time that they want to stand on business, then the Dallas Cowboys and their executives are derelict in their duties. Your job is to draft, develop, and retain the best players. Well, you got Micah Parsons as a slot in the draft where he was available to you and shouldn't have been. So you made the right decision. You drafted the players. And then you developed him. He started as an off-the-ball linebacker. He moved on the ball to become a rush in. And now he's one of the most prolific in the history of the game. And so now you get to take the next step and do the right thing, which is retain Micah Parsons and find a way to build around him. Now, here is where you messed up. You messed up because you had that opportunity last year. And if you do that last year when Nick Bosa is being paid around $34 million a year, you don't have to get to this point and think to yourself, we're going to have to pay upwards of $42, upwards of $43 million a year. So you have backed yourself into this corner. A corner, by the way, that you backed yourself into with Ezekiel Elliott. A corner you backed yourself into with CeeDee Lamb. A corner you backed yourself into with Dak Prescott. So why now, today, with this player, do you take this stand that because the agent is involved or because you can't come up with the deal that you think the player should take, you are now not even having conversations about it?
For decades, the Dallas Cowboys have been defined by their stars: Staubach, Aikman, Irvin, Smith, Romo, Prescott. Micah Parsons was supposed to join that list. He was supposed to be the cornerstone of a new dynasty, the face of America's team in a new era. Instead, he may become the cautionary tale, the one who got away, the one who couldn't find peace under the bright lights of AT&T Stadium, the one who proved that even the might of Jerry Jones can't hold together a fractured bond. The Cowboys say fans shouldn't lose sleep. Jerry insists this will work itself out. But Micah's words echo louder than Jerry's promises. I no longer want to be here. In a league where loyalty is fragile, where windows close fast, and where stars burn bright before they burn out, this saga has become more than a contract dispute. It's a battle for power, a battle for respect, a battle for the very future of the Dallas Cowboys. And when the dust settles, one truth will remain. Micah Parsons may have been born to be a Cowboy, but he may not die one. So now the question is no longer if Micah Parsons will leave. The question is when. Will Jerry deal him before the season, swallowing his pride and securing draft capital before the drama drags Dallas down? Will Parsons be forced to play out his fifth-year option, a ghost of his former self, suiting up for a team he no longer loves? Or will the Cowboys franchise tag him into oblivion, keeping him under contract but never under heart? Schefter's words hang heavy. Divorce is coming. The only question is how.